Hi Avinash, how are you?
Hello, sir.
Yeah,
I'm fine. How are you, sir?
great, good. So, can you tell us something about yourself?
Hi, I'm Avinash. I'm from Hapur. It is a city near New Delhi. I have done my graduation in computer science from SCRIT College Meerut, and after that, I have done a internship in a startup called Back Campus as a front-end developer. And
Hmm,
after that, I have joined TCS in March 2022, and there I have been working for past 2 years as a software developer and manual tester. As a software developer, my main work revolves around developing front-end dashboards for the admin and user channels for the UCP solution. And as a manual tester, I do all types of testing like performance testing, API testing, regression testing, integration testing, and UI UX testing.
great. Okay. So, can you explain about software testing life cycle?
So software testing life cycles mainly start from various endpoints. If you for different software development methods, if we see about that in a waterfall life cycle, waterfall method. So their main testing starts after the code development, but for different so like in VNV model, testing starts from very first end. So whenever we get a requirement from the customer, then only as a business analyst prepare the SRS or BRS. So there only the validation and verification starts from there only. So manual testing teams is working on checking whether what type of configuration whether the customer is needing, and they start creating their test cases, their test scenarios, their testing strategies from there only. So if we specifically talk about life cycle of testing, so it usually consists of understanding the what is the requirement given by the customer, and after that understanding the what is the particular requirement, we create different scenarios that in this particular user story, what different things that we can do to test it. And according to our scenarios, we can create multiple test cases. And we have to also create a we have to also understand that for a particular test case, what can be the test data that which usually helps to understand and test for the defects. And after that, doing the testing, if we found a bug, we can create a defect report for that and assign it back to the developer. So after that, if we get a new build from the developer, we can check it again. And if it is a fix, the defect has been fixed, we can mark it as a fixed in our defect report. Otherwise, we have to reopen that issue. And after all the testing is done, we have to create a final report for that. And once uh, we are good to go for the production, we have to create a release report for that also.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So, when you get this kind of question about software testing life cycle, so you have to explain
Yes, sir.
about the phases, right? So, requirement analysis, that phase you covered, in which we understand the functionality, the testers collaborate with the stakeholders to clarify the requirements, any additional information is required for them. So those all things are covered. Then comes test planning,
Sure,
right?
sir.
So it will define the scope, it will define the objectives, right? It will define the schedule, resources required, and test plan would be created, it would be reviewed, and it would be approved. Then test design. So that covers test cases creation and test data creation, right? Again, it covers both positive, negative scenarios, boundary conditions. Then test environment setup. It will include what hardware you need for testing, what softwares you require. So we will try to create an environment that is kind of copy or duplicate of production environment. Then test
Yes.
execution, the testing would be done, defect reporting, so defects would be documented, they will be re-verified until they are fixed. Then test closure, we'll be creating test results, metrics, any particular lessons learned for the future projects. Those all things will come in the test closure. Then regression testing we'll perform, and at the end we'll do test maintenance. So whatever the the changes are there in the software or in the behavior, test cases or test scripts would be updated, right? So these are the phases of
Okay,
software
sir.
testing life cycle, right? So you can cover all these points. I think you covered requirement, you covered test case related thing, test execution, defect reporting you covered,
Yes, sir.
right? So other parts are also very important. So those all things you need to cover.
I have to calculate my answer according to that, right?
Yes, yes,
Include
yes. And
all the
yeah,
steps.
go step by step so that it is easier for interviewer also, right? Okay, that you are going in a sequential way, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, how will you decide if the number of test cases are enough for testing the given module?
So, according to the requirement, we create for if a new requirement comes, we create multiple scenarios for that. So whether what that if a particular normal user will use, how he or she will use that particular software, what are the main features that we are developing in current release for that requirement, and what so if the functionality is like creating a ticket generation program, right? So that so in that we have to check whether all the different problems like problem statements are there or not, that whether a ticket is regarding login screen, home page, and from dashboard or checkout section. So in that we have to check whether all the different pages are there or not. So this can be checked as a requirement. And then after selecting out that requirement, we can create multiple test cases for each scenario.
Mm,
So multiple test cases for login page. So whether a user is able to log in properly or not, whether if a user is not entering correct email ID and passwords, and then also is he able to log in or not? And if he is able to log in, that how much time is the user have to wait to get to a particular main screen home page? So this type of test cases. And coming back to the question that you asked, that how much test cases are enough.
mm,
So basically we cover all these types of features.
mm,
So usually every scenario must have, I think, according to me, 4 to 5 test cases, and we should have at least 2 to 3 scenarios for each page.
mm,
So after doing all those testing and checking whether all the basic features that customer has required, customer demanded for the current release
mm,
are all covered, and a test case for each of them has been done by us. We have tested all this functionality and it is working. The
mm,
code developed is according to them and working fine. And customer is getting all the things that he needed from the software in current release.
mm,
Uh, so after doing that, so a number can be, I can't give a
mm,
number specifically. It depends upon what is the requirement, how big is the requirement.
mm,
Sometimes the requirement is very small, you know. So the requirement might also be that, yeah, there is a spelling mistake.
mm,
So
mm,
it do not require many number of different test cases. But yes, uh, we have to consider a number of requirement, number of test cases will be there, and it also depends on what is the requirement. But we have to check that if everything is covered or not.
right, right. So, uh, yes, you're right. There cannot be exact number for this kind of question. So you can consider the factors. So which are the factors? So what is the complexity of the application? What is the complexity of the code?
Yes, sir.
Which are the critical functionalities, right? So once you have covered them, then it's fine. And what is the test case coverage that you are going for? It should not happen that you are covering two important scenarios, but you are leaving eight of the other not been executed. So how much
Yes, sir.
coverage you are covering with those number of test cases? How much coverage you are getting? What is the diversity that you are getting in the test cases? It should
Yes,
not happen that you have covered one happy path only. There should be some all kinds of permutation, combination, variety of test cases should be involved in your test suite,
yes,
right? So all these things will matter based on how many test cases would be required to ensure that this particular testing has been enough for the given module, right? And you once you feel that all the required number of test cases has been executed, now no more P0, P1 kind of scenarios remain, then you
Yes,
can go for sign off.
sure, sir.
Okay, now I'll share my screen. So now let's move to the scenario based question. Okay, so you have got a use case. It's related to e-commerce website. The use case says,
Okay.
yeah, that you have got a credit card payment option and customer will buy a book with this particular payment option only. So in the website, they will have different options. They might have
Yes.
cash on delivery, they might have a debit card option, they might have UPI, but the use case for you is that customer will buy a book with the credit card payment option. So you need to come up with 4 test cases to test this particular use case.
Hmm. Sir, so let me think, first of all, multiple test cases.
So you can
Mm.
go through it.
Ah, so first one will be whether there is many times it occurred to me as well. I think it must happen to you as well, that
Mhm,
whenever we visit our e-commerce website,
mhm,
a product is visible, but in front of that we see that the particular product is unavailable at the current
mhm,
time.
mhm,
So the first test case might be that the whatever the product or whatever the book the customer is trying to buy is whether it is available or not. This is the first test case.
mhm,
And then coming to whether he is able to buy it from credit card. So credit card usually have a limit, right? So we have to check when a customer is giving the information for the particular credit card, there is a particular limit, cash limit
mhm,
present or not, whether he have exhausted the limit, and after exhausting the limit, he is trying to buy the product. That must not be a case. And this is the second use case. Test case. Test case might be he is giving correct card number and CVV number, and there is a combination of month and date, expiry date. So whether that is correct or not. And after doing the transaction, we receive a OTP, right?
mhm,
After generating a transaction. So we have to give the correct OTP to authenticate the bank will authenticate that yes, the current credit card that you are giving is belonging to the same person who is doing the transaction. So we can check by entering correct OTP. So if the correct OTP might be one case, and one case will be that we are entering an incorrect OTP. So usually I think five
So
are
if
there:
it's an
correct OTP,
incorrect
incorrect
OTP,
OTP. Yes,
yeah, so
a
in case of
combination of,
incorrect
yes,
OTP, it will not proceed, right?
yes. And the combinations of correctness of card number, CVV number, and expiry date. So I'm not sure whether we have to give the name of the card holder as well, but that can be also a test case.
Mhm,
And
okay.
sometimes it happens that when we initiate a transaction, we receive a screen that do not refresh the page.
Mhm,
So what if a user refresh the page in between of transaction, whether he will be charged for that book, and our order will be successful, or not. This might be a test case.
mhm,
And if what happened in the middle, the network got disabled
mhm,
in middle of transaction, will the charge be on credit card
mhm,
then or not? This might also be a a test case. And if we try to resume the transaction, whether the e-commerce site will tell that yes, a particular book has been already purchased by the customer, and it will show in our order section. Order, there's a order page now in each
mhm,
e-commerce website. So whether we are getting that particular book in the order page or not, even after doing getting successfully doing the transaction. So these are the different use cases that I can think of currently.
mhm. Okay, okay, great. So let us see. So these are few of the test cases, sorry, test scenarios, I would say, right? So purchase item
Yes.
in cart with proper amount and quantity details. So this is a happy path. Then comes the checkout
I have
process.
missed this one.
Yeah.
I have missed the most obvious one.
right?
uh,
So whenever you give this answer, so think from the start. So happy path, vanilla
yes,
flavor, right? And then you can cover different test scenarios of negative test scenarios, right? Test scenarios that might be some rare. So what customer would do? 60,
yes,
70, maybe 80% will be going with the happy path only. There are very
yes,
few of them who will take some rare path, right? So
yes, sir.
checkout process is there, redirection to payment screen with proper checkout details. Then whichever item you are purchasing, so that item should be logged for purchase by others. It should not allow the same item should be purchased by any other else, right? There should be a different, if the
Yes.
product is same, it should be a
Mhm.
different, item number.
Yes.
Then payment screen. So I think this you and mentioned credit card selection, select appropriate card type, right? So all those validations, then validation of credit card details entered, right? Then verification for negative test cases with fake card details, or you can say the incorrect OTP after entering correct card details. Then payment
Yes.
gateway direction. So whenever you have with respect to various banks setups, account setups,
Yes.
and so accordingly it should redirect. Then there should be a secure session between website, payment gateway, and credit card. Credit card authentication screen, valid redirection, invalid credential should abort the transaction, right? So
Yes, sir.
transaction success screen should be properly displayed with receipt details, email or SMS, whichever is applicable. Then purchase item count should be decreased on website database,
Yes,
right?
sir.
So these are all the test cases. So instead of four, yeah, almost five to
Yes.
six are there. Okay, so this is going on. Okay, how do you review the test cases?
So review in a sense after creating test case before doing the test.
Hmm.
Huh?
So let's say if there is,
A
yeah, yeah, peer
peer
review.
review will.
Correct, correct.
So usually our test team includes three testers, including me. So one
Hmm,
is a test lead, and one is the he's only the automation tester,
hmm,
and there is also one tester with me, a little bit senior. So we are three testers.
hmm,
So the what we do is that we there's a multiple releases, multiple
hmm,
functionalities going in the current release, na? So there might be 4 or 5 different functionalities that our team will be doing in the current release.
hmm,
So we take two functionalities each,
hmm.
two current what I say in Agile, I think they called user stories, two user
Right, right.
stories
So you
each,
will take two
and for that
functionalities. Yeah.
For that, we have a one-to-one discussion with the developer. So with developer, we understand that what the code he is going to develop, how it will take a data from start to end, what is the end-to-end coding part that he will doing. We understand the what test cases can be implemented there. So whether there are data coming from DB or not, or just normal UI change or not. So accordingly that we create multiple scenarios, and each scenario we create a test case, 2 to 3 test cases. So this after doing that, we send our test cases to other person in the team, and we cross check whether something can be added or something is redundant and may be removed to create the test cases efficient. So this is how we do test review. And
Right,
we
right.
also get sometimes we ask developers as well, so what do you think? So in our team, that after creating a particular functionality, developer also have to give 4 to 5 test cases,
Hmm,
that while developing what issues that have while developing. So we also consider while testing that whether these issues might appear again or not. So sometimes we also take those defects that developer raise.
hmm,
So
hmm, hmm.
I think 8 to 10 test cases for each story point.
8 to 10 cases. So you are telling about the number of test cases that you will have for every stories.
Huh, yes. So it depends upon the size of story as well, na? So, for example, we in two releases back, I think we were shifting our old UI from JSP to React. So it was a very big story point. So there were more than 300 test cases, है ना?
Mm,
So depending upon what is the size of release. So,
mm, mm.
but usually the process is same. Uh,
Okay, okay, fine. So the question was about how will you review the test cases, right? So let's say if you have some junior team members in your team and you have to review their test cases, or you are
yes,
a junior member and someone else is reviewing the test cases. So you can share the parameters on the basis of which the test cases will be reviewed, right? So one parameter would
yes,
be whether all the test cases are covering all the requirements, whether the test cases are written in such a manner that each and every acceptance criteria in the user story has been covered. Then, apart from happy path, positive flow, we are also covering the negative flow. Then, have we
yes,
covered non-functional test cases? So many people will tell, no, it was not written in the user story, so we didn't cover that. But it is up to the testers to determine whether this user story would require non-functional testing or not, and then they can initiate the conversation with the product managers or with the leads, and they can convey to them that non-functional testing would be a part of this user story, so maybe they would need more timeline to test it.
yes,
Then you can see if the user story is covering security aspect, then we need to cover security test cases, right? You can also review whether the test data has been created for all the test cases properly. You can also review that the test cases are self-explanatory. Those should be clear, those should be crisp, those should be written in such a manner that any other person should be able to use, execute those test cases given that they have sufficient product knowledge, right?
yes,
Then the test cases should be covering the backward compatibility kind of scenarios as well. For example, if any user is having a status of active inactive. So inactive is a new functionality that has been added, right? So you need to test with both the users, creating a new user and also testing with the existing user and trying to make it inactive.
pre-existing user.
Yeah, pre-existing, right? So backward compatibility test cases should be covered and we need to review them as a part
Yes,
of test case review, right? And apart from that, if you will see, so all the test cases should have expected result. It should not happen that before executing, you don't have the clarity that what should be the expected result for this particular scenario, right? So all the test cases should have expected result. And whenever you review the test cases, you also have to ensure that there is no spelling mistake kind of things in the test
yes.
cases. So English should be proper, right? So that's how you will review the test cases. Okay, now let's move to the next question. Okay, what is a retrospective meeting?
So at the end of release, when we ship the product
Mm,
into the production,
mm,
so usually a meeting happens between the testers, and
mm,
sometimes we include developers as well. That whether in the current release, the test cases that we have executed
mm,
were proper or not, what we can do better next time,
mm,
and this how we usually communicate with each of the team members and take their opinions on that whether what we have done wrong, what we can correct, and what in the next future what better we can do.
mm. Correct, correct. So which are the different agile ceremonies that you are a part of?
Uh, Sir, I didn't
Mhm.
understand quite properly what you were
Right,
saying.
right. So
Can you explain
agile,
a little bit? I understand you are asking about agile, but
agile.
uh,
Yes, yes. So agile ceremonies means you have got different meetings in agile, like retrospective is one of the meetings. Sync up, daily sync up
mhm.
calls, we have DSS. Then grooming meetings, then sprint planning, then requirement grooming kind of meetings.
So, sir,
Yeah.
where I understand what are the different meetings that you are asking.
Mm,
Currently in our project, we are not we are following agile, but it is not a hardcore agile. Na? Like we
mm,
do not have daily sprints. We
mm,
have weekly sprints. But or if needed, we required we do one-to-one meetings as well
mm,
whenever required. If there is any blocker defect, there is blocker coming in the way, and we need a particular outview that where the team lead can help us that in particular defect if there is a particular defect going on and we need the help, then we can have a meeting.
mm,
Apart from weekly calls, there is a requirement, a call in the start of the sprint as well. So
mm,
in that we will discuss that whatever the user stories will be there in current sprint,
mm,
uh, uh, these two meetings, and we have our for the testers we have peer review meeting where we discuss about test cases and what can be done in these test cases and how we can develop the test cases for these user stories. Three, then as you said earlier, a retrospective meeting. I think
mm,
4 or 5 different meetings will be there, and one is a demo meeting where a meeting will again happen that after developing all the functionalities, a developer will give a demo to the testers that
mm,
do how to do their testing step by step, that what the functionality has been created, how it is actually working after development. So I think 5 meetings are there.
Okay, so these are all the calls that basically you have in your process.
Yes.
Okay, okay. So now let me share my screen. So this is a scenario-based question. Uh, yeah, is the screen visible to you?
Yes, sir.
Hmm? So let me move this down a bit. Hmm. Okay. Now what is happening here is, let me frame. Okay. So you have got build one. Let's say you got this build on Monday and you perform
Yes.
test cycle. So you perform testing and your testing is completed. You reported some X defects to the internal team. Now, what happened is you got these fixes in build 2, but there were changes in the user interface. UI, UX
Yeah.
got changes.
UI.
There were
Yes.
some changes in the design. Color of the button got changed. Some button itself, some controls itself got changed. Earlier, it was a radio button. Now it got shifted to checkbox, right? So you performed again testing. Okay. Then you received third build. In that build, again, there were changes in the UI, UX, right? So now what will you do? So these things are, a kind of a challenge for you. Every time the build comes, there is a
Yes.
change in the UI UX. You cannot update your test cases because you don't have time, right? You have already written your test cases once. Now you would be
Yes.
moving to test execution, but every day these things are happening with every build, with every release. So how would you, or let me come with this question. How would you, what would you do in this situation, in this scenario? How would you approach testing?
So
Mm,
if this is happening in every build that we are getting that
mm,
and every user story,
mm,
so usually consult with my test lead and
mm,
have a meeting with developer team
mm,
that to consult that what is the actual requirement done by the user,
mm,
done by the
mm,
customer. So what will be the final state looks like,
mm,
right? So I understand that developers are developing day to day
mm.
the functionality, and it take around some time, na?
Agree.
So not all code can be developed in a day, but they
Mm,
are giving us build on daily basis.
mm,
So as a tester, it will be difficult for us to test the integrating. So continuous changes are there, and we have to check those changes. But there might be a case that in the final build that we receive, the UI do not actually look like all the builds that we earlier received and have
mm,
done testing for them. Na? So we usually consult with the developing team and ask them what will the actual UI look at the end.
mm,
So as you said, the test cases are for the UI only, na? I'm
mm,
taking only that part. So how the actual UI will look after doing all the changes. So they will give a roughly idea. We can create a wireframe for that,
mm,
how that particular UI will look. So accordingly, that we can design a test cases. So we do not have to do all the hard work
mm,
of developing new test cases on for the all the builds that we are getting on daily basis. So this
mm,
can be done, and after getting a rough idea that how a wireframe will look like, we can create our test cases for that. Some minor changes can be done in one or two test cases might be created if needed. So I think this is the approach that I will take.
correct, correct. So you will connect with the UI UX team, the designing team, and you will make them come on a single call. So including your leads, managers, UI, UX, dev leads, and you can explain them the challenge that you are facing, right?
Yes, sir.
And you will ask them to have some mock-ups or some kind of wireframe which is available from the basis of which you can get some confirmation and you can update your test cases once in a while, right?
Yes, sir.
That's what you would be doing. Okay. Okay, what are joins in SQL and what are the different types of joins in SQL?
So, joins are usually used to join two tables. That
Mm,
different tables are there, but we run a query, and where we need some data from a table A and some data from table B.
mm,
So usually joins are done there, and
mm,
we need a I think a foreign key for that
mm,
to do the joins so that a particular key is present in both the tables. We create a condition that a particular key is present in table A as well as table B, and then create a SQL query so that we can get a table data from both. So, for example, there is a table A that have data for student name and marks,
mm,
huh? And there is a data B where we have student names and their addresses. So if the question is like that, what is the address of the student that have marks greater than
mm.
50? Huh? So there we can do a join.
Okay, what is
But I'm
natural
not good.
join? Okay,
But
yeah,
I'm not very good at SQL. Na.
yeah,
I
but they
know the
might ask you
basic.
some questions.
Yes,
Yeah, right. No, no worries. At least be comfortable with the basic questions. Even if you are not able to answer in an interview, you can tell, sir, I would like to give a try. Right? Sometimes, who knows, in trial and error itself, you might give partially correct answer, right?
yes.
Rather than not giving the answer, right? No worries. Yeah. So what is natural join?
So natural join. I'm taking a wild guess only, na,
Yes,
here.
yes,
So
yes.
natural join is that that I think there are multiple joins. There's a cross joining. So for each key in table A, they will map to table B. So I think that is a cross join. Natural join may be joining from only those keys that are present in both the tables. So there might be a case that table B might have or many number
Mm,
like 5 entries, and table A have only 4 entries. So in natural join, I think we will get only uh, 4 entries if you do a join.
mm.
I'm taking
Okay.
a wild guess only, sir. Here.
Right, right. No worries. So let this be an open question for the people who are watching this video, right? What is natural join, right? So they can answer in the in the comment section of this video itself, right? Okay. Okay, Avinash, I am done with the interview. Do you have any questions for me?
Sir, I know I lack in multiple different questions. So,
Hmm. No worries.
what
Uh,
is the question that or the
hmm,
topics that I can mainly focus apart? I know that as my skill is not that strong, so I have to look
hmm,
on that part. But apart from that, what are other things that
hmm.
I can have to?
Right, right. So let's start from the first question, software testing life cycle. You have to tell in the terms of phases, right?
Yes,
the
yes.
different phases that we discussed. Then test case review, parameters, those things you have to cover. Then I think there was one question related to scenario. How will you come to a conclusion that these many test cases are sufficient for testing, right? Those kind of scenario-based questions. Then uh, SQL natural join. Then types of joins in SQL, inner join, outer join, right? And then we discussed about agile ceremonies, so different meetings that you have. Then that scenario-based question you were able to answer related to UI UX getting changes in every build, right? So that question I think you covered properly. What else? Yeah. So then example of I think high priority, low severity defects, and then test plan. Yeah. So I think rest of the things looks good except two or three questions. So you are having good grip. Just be confident in a real-time interview and try to give answer, right? It might happen that you might be giving the correct answers.
I have to take my chances.
Yes, yes, definitely. See, there are two options. If you don't take the chances, then you might not get selected in the interview. Who knows? If you take the chances, then you might get selected, right? So let's be
Yes,
positive, take those chances because as such also we are not having a job. So
yes,
we are not having a job in the sense like they are interviewing us. They have not given us a green signal for the job. So give it a try, right?
yes,
And one question which you might get is the test scenarios for some particular website or application that somehow got missed in this particular interview, but that you can expect. Maybe some website they will open and they will ask you how will you test, what are the high level test scenarios, and then one question you might get on test estimation. How much time would you take to test this particular thing? How much time would you take to test this particular software or web page, anything? Estimation. Then what are your roles and responsibilities being a tester? So earlier you mentioned in your introduction you are working as a software developer and tester. So what did you do as a tester? So you have to tell them number of things there,
yes.
right? Right. So I think the rest all looks good, right? Anything else,
Sure, sir.
Avinash?
Uh,
Yeah,
Sir, for the technical part, I think this that is it, enough.
enough,
But
enough.
I
From
have a
manual
personal
testing side.
questions. Yes.
Yeah.
So, sir,
So recording
I
is
would.
on, right? Yeah. Is it fine for you?
So, uh, I
We
don't
are,
think so, sir. Whether this is a personal
yeah,
question, I'm
yeah,
not,
yeah.
not,
We are
uh,
left
not.
with 30 seconds only now.